All right. So this weekend we have the North America 2024 Championship. I wanted to go over a little bit of an overview what the event is, why it's exciting, what should be cool about it. Obviously, I had the video talking about the changes made to it. I'm not going to talk about those here. Still heavily in disagreement with both the communication behind those changes and why they were made at all. But that's not what's important. What's important is that the tourney is this weekend. So as of a couple hours ago, we have the full list of competitors due to the LCQ being concluded. So congrats to the top 11 of the LCQ that will now have a chance to play in the North America 2024 Championship. So let's get a quick overview of what I expect to see. So the North American Championship is being played in El Segundo, California. It will be live streamed. I don't know if they have the stream on here. They do not. Check Facebook, check Twitter. Both of those should have it. So the way that the tourney is going to work, there will be 7 rounds of Swiss, and you're going to have A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, whatever that ends up being. What that means is, so it's 2 decks you have to have. You cannot share any cards between the 2 decks. So if you have 1 copy of Shantoto in one deck, you cannot put 2 copies of the same Shantoto in the other. It's not shared deck, it's 2 deck individually. If you've never experienced it, it's a really, really cool format in that it ends up broadening the field. I'll have a bit more on that later. This is a so what that ends up meaning is that the way you build your decks has to change because you can't just throw the best cards in your deck. You need to be preserving staples to be across both of them. There are more than enough staples. We're 23 sets into the game at this point. There are a lot of good decks that don't use all of the same cards. If you're going, you do need to make sure that you have 4 different types of sleeves. I recommend having some pre-release sleeves or something for your LB deck. I'm sure people on site will have extra packs of sleeves if you really need them, but and I believe usually some of the entry gifts will be one sleeve pack, so you can use the special card sleeve pack and the road to world sleeves if you need them for your LB deck. And yeah, so we're gonna play the 7 rounds of Swiss. They're gonna cut to a top 16. And there's actually going to be a loser's bracket. So I'm going to pull up a top 16 double elimination. So if you've never seen a top 16 double elimination bracket, this is what it looks like. Hopefully I can just get this like really large. Open image new tab. So they're gonna take, one goes here, 16 goes here, so on and so, all the way down. But if you lose, you fall down to the loser's bracket. And in the loser's bracket, it is no longer a best of 3 2-deck format, the traditional 2-deck where you must win with both of your decks. Instead, you'll pick one deck and you have to win with that deck in a best of 1. Ends up being kind of close. It's a little bit strange because it means there's literally 3 different formats in this event that you need to be ready to play and prepared for. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I remember the event last year. I think this is even the same hotel, judging by the pictures from the LCQ. And get your entry. You get a tote bag. This is just if it's the same as last year, it's like a cheap little canvas bag. You get a championship playmat, which is the Palamaporum. Great choice, by the way. I love the art by Sarah Shimakobe on this card, or this art, but last year it was the Lock and Sell as mat. I think this is a great choice. You get the special card sleeve, which I think is actually the Porum, if I remember correctly. Road to Worlds, that is the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth sleeves. You get 6 packs, or 6 booster packs. 3 promo cards. You get 1 Mist Dragon, 1 Rufus, 1 Ashtola. If you're missing your playset, it's a good way to round those out. Pricing. So top 32 will get a Terra, and you get a keychain for FF16. Top 16 get the big one, which is the first big one, which is the Warrior of Light promo card. This is a brand new card. I guess I might as well do a mini review on it. It sucks. I love it. Basically, it's a 8-cost light card that if you don't control a crystal, loses 20,000 power, and if you have it, it's just a big 8-cost light card or light bungus. We'll never see any competitive play. It's even less interesting than Garnet as far as that goes, but that doesn't matter. It's not what it's there for. Generally, the Garnets last year are some of the most valuable cards in the history of Final Fantasy TCG. Warrior of Light is very likely to be as rare and or expensive, in particular if this does end up maintaining a different foil treatment than the Garnets, like the Garnets did from when they ended up releasing the Garnets into mass circulation. Top 12, you get the uniform. If you, that like top 12 get the ability to go to Worlds in Japan, but only top 4 get it paid. The remaining top 8 have to pay their own way. Fingers crossed that a majority of people that do qualify are able to go. Top 8 get the Noir card collection. These are a couple $100. Actually, a bit difficult to get now. Top or 5th through 8 get the non-foil card set of Opus 23. It's not like the most exciting thing, but it's nice to have. Top 4, you get the paid round trip. You get the foil card set, which I believe includes the Lightning Signature. You get the Final Fantasy 16 Clive and Torgal. You get the Digital Watch Shinra. 3 and 4 get semifinalist trophies. Top 2 get a normal card set of the next set at Worlds. You get the full art signature Jack from Opus 21. Second is going to get a finalist, and then the champion's going to get a trophy. They're going to get a foil card set of the next set. They're going to get a Sephiroth 22L signature. And yeah, super, super exciting. I believe the tourney is going to start at 10 a.m. Registration is going to conclude by 9:30, so I imagine they're going to start by 10. My theory on why they are really pushing the ABA is for time reasons, so they will probably try to be starting prompt. Qualified players, I'll go over some of those in a little bit, I guess, just kind of the people that I'm most excited to see play. And yeah, if you're there, there's also side events on day 2. There should be people from Hobby Japan there, so you can play games with developers. You can do mini pods, sealed, constructed. F5 is first 5, so only Opus 1 through Opus 5 are legal. Plays with the same ban list that was legal at that time. And yeah, should be super, super cool. As far as the actual decks that I expect to do well, this probably should go up here. I took the same tier list that I made from before, and I modified it for what I expect to change in a 2-deck format. So you can see here, one thing that 2-deck does, it broadens the number of tier 1 decks. There's a lot more that's viable, and that you're happy to play when you have to split your cards across a different pool. I think Mono Earth and Mono Water is probably like the control player's dream for like what to play. Both decks are extremely competent. Not a lot of weaknesses, not a lot of bad matchups. And they cover each other very well. A lot of the decks that like Mono Water might struggle with, I think Earth does very well into. A lot of the decks that Earth does might have an issue with. Mono Water is very likely to clear. I think another of the most common combinations we'll see is going to be Knights plus Chaos. I think these are the 2 premier aggro decks of the format. I think that they don't have great matchups into Mono Earth in particular, but I think they can beat just about everything else pretty well. There's only one overlap, which is Larsa. If you're playing Merowid in Knights instead, there's almost no overlap. I think that Realm is probably the next best deck. I mean, most modern water decks are on her as well, but I've seen different variations on this. In particular, Realm can be played with a warrior package. It can be played with so many other different ways of playing. The card is just absurdly strong. Um, I think Hlo is going to rise up a lot. I think a lot of the answers to the Hlo Deas combo deck do go away. And while it burns a lot of cards, it burns a lot of weird cards. It doesn't play any summons, so your other deck can play all of those, the Mist Dragons and Khus Siths that you would normally want in an Earth deck, so it doesn't like block you from playing Earth necessarily. I think it's actually like a shockingly strong deck in this. It does burn like Realm, and you probably don't want to play like Mono Earth with it, but you could probably play like Hithlo combo with Mono Water if you wanted to and not have any issues. I think Earthwater as well, just combining those, that like summons heavy deck. I think that probably I would not be combining it with Chaos. I'll get to why that is later. But I think it's just another control engine. You just have all the best cards in the two best control decks or mid range decks in the game. Seems pretty potent. Lastly, I think that Tyvis in particular is going to be just about everywhere. I think that if you don't want to play one of these top tier decks and you want to combine, I think Tyvis has like 4 different shells. You can play Mono Fire, you can play with Gissa, you can play Fire Water, just all kinds of places. In tier 2, these are the decks that are pretty close, but I don't know how much I would expect to see them. I have Megissa, just another great mono shell, doesn't conflict with any of the best decks for the most part. You can play this with Mono Earth, you can play it with Mono Water, you can play it with Chaos. I really, really like the Warriors of Darkness package, actually. I think this is a deck that is a very small engine that can be played in a second deck that makes it probably stronger than it was. There's a bit of overlap with like Mono Earth if you wanted to but you could very easily do like Mono Earth plus Warriors of Darkness for your second deck if you wanted to. But the engine is just so small, and it covers a lot of weird angles. It's very hard to get run down with it. It gives you a board in a can type effect with a knock, so you can start pushing damage against control decks. It just seems very flexible to me. Similarly, actually, I should put here. I think the Twins are just always good in formats like this. They're just good at being good catch-alls. I think that because of 2-deck, you're going to see a lot more Lightning, which does naturally prey on the Twins, but they do have a good way of adjusting to that, it feels like. I've got 13 pretty high here as well. I know that people seem to not be as high on this, but there's plenty of times this deck just goes off and wins. I think it's probably like worse than Knights or Chaos, but it plays very well with like Chaos. Because again, you were just not overlapping on cards almost at all. X and Mill, this is kind of a way of playing, mono water or any kind of a water deck. I think it's really strong, but I think it's a lot clunkier than the traditional mono water has been. I think Scions and the Category 8 package are both extremely strong, especially in more limited formats like this. I see most Scions being played Water Lightning, which I think is probably the best way of playing them, but and then Cat 8, I've seen Water Lightning. I think Ice Lightning Cat 8 actually could make a big showing, a big splash if people actually were to mess with it. I think there's just enough good Cat 8 stuff in those colors. And the answers just start getting spread a little bit too thin across the 2 different elements. This was the deck of the L3 tournament in Japan, which is a lower power environment because of lacking cards and answers, and these cards just ran over that format. Would not be surprised to see something similar here. A lot of you are going to be surprised to see me put Refia in tier 2, but Refia is very greedy. She's so greedy. It's so difficult to play Refia with other decks in this format because you're burning Warrior of Light, you're burning Tyro, you're burning Khus Sith, you're burning Mist Dragon, Kukulkan, Leviathan, Amaterasu. These are cards that I'm pretty sure are just non-negotiable in a Refia shell. And I think for that reason, I think that a lot of players that would consider themselves as Refia pilots will instead be flocking to Mono Earth as Refia that doesn't burn every single good card in your deck. Same issue with kind of 4-color good stuff. I think 4-color good stuff is more flexible. There's more you can do with it. But it does still probably want to run 3 Kusith, 3 Mist Dragon, the Cullens, and so on and so forth. Ice, I think, is actually in a very, very strong spot in this format. So, in particular, I think it's one of the few things that has an okay matchup into the Earth decks. It does have a very poor matchup into Mono Water, unfortunately. But I think that the fact that none of these decks outside of maybe Chaos are going to be fighting with Ice or Lightning for slots means that the deck is very well positioned to be a very strong second deck. And let's not forget, Ice Lightning won the Japan Standard Championship just last set. The deck is very strong. Cecil, this is kind of another like spin on the 4-color Warrior of Light. Just a good set of cards, good catch-all, gives you both aggro potential and control potential, which is always good. I have Chaos, like Chaos Arc, a lot lower in a 2-deck format than in a 1-deck format, just because, again, you look at this. This is a mono deck, and granted, it is sort of mono, but it can play just Earth cards if it wants to. This is a mono deck, and always has been the worst matchup for Chaos Arc. I mean, these are good matchups for it, but like Realm isn't necessarily a good Chaos Arc matchup. Hlo combo is going to kill before the Chaos Arc actually matters, etc., etc. Tyvis can play mono if it wanted to. So I think I would be scared to take Chaos Arc to the event, but it is a very powerful duo. The Giga Reactivation deck, I think, could be really solid here. Again, for the same reason I think like the Category 8 stuff could be. Just, I think it's a deck people aren't really prepared for that is very obnoxious. I think it is going to struggle against the Mono Earth and Mono Waters, but when this deck goes off, you just kind of win. It could be a very good B deck, I think. Warrior of Giga Wall. This is a deck that is also very greedy, unfortunately. Cards like Larsa or Amaterasu and Giga Wall are so important for this strategy to work that I would be scared to take it. I think probably the best shell for it would be like as a 1-of and a mono water to try to like accelerate your game against slower decks. But yeah. Rug aggro decks, I expect to also do pretty well. I'm always huge on retainers. I love the ability to use them as a defensive shell. I think there is a lot of like it can do okay tonight in Chaos. It can sort of okay against the Hlo deck. I think it's just in a decent place right now. Realm decks, or sorry, Mirror decks, like the Earth deck. These were really good last year. And again, if you think about the card pool, there's just not a lot that deals with a really wide board. It is going to be a struggle against like the Chaos if it's on the Gilgamesh package, or like Knights is a horrible matchup for this deck. But it doesn't have to win that all the time. It just has to do well enough against the other decks. And I think this deck could do well against Mono Water in particular. I don't really know what it's supposed to do to deal with this. Mono Earth only has the one Shantoto bullet and maybe a Neo X Death, both of which are very expensive, and Mirror is very cheap. The wind shells are pretty much untouched by the best decks in the game as far as colors go, which I think will make them very interesting and very popular, but I do think that they are in a very bad spot at the moment. Was talking with friends, and these decks have not gotten better since Opus probably 18, I think was the last time that there were really good wind cards printed into the game. Maybe 19 if you want to count Everite, but like, you're playing an Opus 19 deck in Opus 23. Like, what do you do? I have Samurais and Mono Fire around here as well. Again, you're only burning one element, and I think that the answers to these decks are very difficult to find in both of your other decks. I think that Samurais might be a little bit lower, but I still think Tenzin is just a good card. Think of these as kind of like other alternatives if you wanted to play fire but don't want to play Megissa. Rydia Turbo, I think, goes up a little bit here. There's a lot of different things you can do with this deck. Ninjas use primarily wind and lightning, and they're also very good at like kind of anti-aggro and kind of tempo-y stuff. I think that they could be poised for a decent little showing here. Dragoons, there's probably a bit of a power gap about right here, I would say, like almost like a tier 2.5. Dragoons can just kind of win the game, swim in card advantage and win. And again, you're not competing with slots. I think there's a potential for this deck to just run down the mono earth deck, run down the mono water deck, and have enough defensive tools to survive against the knights and the chaoses of the world. Black Mages, similarly, it's a bit of a metagame call. Does not do very well into the top 2 decks, but can do very well into Knights, can do very decently into Chaos, can do very well into just like most of the other decks in the format. Turks, similarly, again, if you want to just kind of have a bit of a coin flippy deck, I think there's a potential for this deck to just run away with games. Hot take, same thing with the classier cadets. I think these are very slept on, have a lot more potential, particularly as far as dealing with anti-aggro goes. 13 mid-range. I'm just not sold on this deck. Just does not have the results to back up kind of the hype that Hope had at the start of the set. Could be wrong. I'm going to still put it on here. I think Turbo Discard, again, very similar to like the Turks decks as a deck that could do very well in a 2-deck format. Mono Wind Storm stuff is probably more towards here. I just think that in general, the wind or the ice is slightly better positioned, given the way that it interacts with water and earth in particular, and maybe the ability to just stall out against these 2 decks. Siren is just or like Siren decks, like the Siren Rug stuff. You're kind of banking on one of your opponent's decks not having the answers to this. Ice Earth, similarly, it's a way you can take your Earth deck to be a much slower, more control-y shell, and some decks don't have great ways to play against it. And then the like Reagan Theodore deck, I think, is really cool and really strong, but it is a little bit greedy for colors and spots. I think the rest of these, this should be up here. I don't know why that's down there. Water Lightning is probably going to be one of the best ways of playing water. Is there anything down here that I would move up? This is probably down here. Soiree, it's probably at the top of tier 3. It's just not a reason to play it over just doing the 4-color good stuff. I think the unit could be here, like Summoners as a deck. I think the rest of these, if you want like more descriptions on some of these, Barts can go up to tier 2. I missed that one. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. Like, I think Bart's is strictly worse than Refia Control for an event like this, but it is less greedy for space, potentially. Maybe you just want the extra Warrior of Light. I don't think it's a bad deck for the event. For the players to look out for, obviously, the players that won Materia Cups they're going to have their 3-round buys, but you should be keeping an eye out for them. I think that, in particular, Mike Powell, who won 3 events, if I remember correctly, over the course of the year. Maybe he just won 2. Maybe he did just only win 2 and just happened to be like second place at like every single other event he went to. But like again, Kyle Peters, Mike Powell, Tori Kelly, Jonathan G, Hunter Nance, Ryan Shen, Ray G. Brian Berkeley got second place at this event at Tabletop Tavern, so he'll have the buys as well. Very likely to see them in Top Cut thanks to the strength of the 3 buys. There are also a lot of previous Materia Cup winners that will be at the event. People like Sam Prime have qualified. Yeah, right here. But obviously, like, they didn't win an event this year, but they're very strong players. Mohammed has gotten, I think, second place before at Materia Cups. Just all of the best players in the game will be there. Super, super exciting. I'm going to be cheering for one of my friends from Dallas, Joey, Anthony. And then the LCQ is done for today, but yeah. Obviously, the NA players from 2023 as well. I think Will is the only one that didn't win a Materia Cup this year, but I know that Will qualified. So just another player to keep an eye on. Obviously, has shown his aptitude in events like this. I think it'll be really interesting. I think that Mono Earth is going to be a very dominating presence. Probably, I would expect to see 35 to 50% of the room on it, which is a bit scary, but I think that the uniqueness of two deck format makes it a bit more prevalent. I would expect to see about a similar ratio on Chaos as well. I think Chaos is a very easy deck to make your second deck if you want to just flip it a bit. And it combines very well with a lot of decks you wouldn't expect. Like, you can play it the Water Lightning build and play it with even like a 4-color deck if you wanted to. You could swap out Warrior of Light for like Vaughn if you wanted to, and that'll give you the ability to still do the Gilgamesh with like a very small downgrade. And yeah, I think it's a very interesting tourney. I'm looking forward to watching. Let me know what you all think, if there's anything that you're really looking forward to. And I'll see you in the next one.